So Joel has been playing Lords of the Fallen for us. I know this might be hard considering it's quite a big game, but can you sum up in one sentence?
It's fine. It's capital F fine so far. It's got some high points, it's got some low points, and it balances out to fine.
It's very much pitched itself as a Souls-like. We can see that it looks like a Souls-like.
Yeah.
Right, okay. How does it feel? Because the playing of a Souls-like, the mechanics and that kind of stuff is really important and hard to nail. Other people have tried it. How does it do?
Combat-wise, it is pretty much a bit of a greatest hits of other games.
Okay.
Of other Souls-like entries. So you've got the mana focus system from Dark Souls for your spellcasting. You've got the hit enemies to get back health you just lost system from Bloodborne. You've got a sort of parry emphasis from Sekiro and more recently Lies of P. I will say with a bit more of a fluid kind of combo system. Well, that may be overselling it, but there's just nice little touches that in Dark Souls it was triangle to switch between one-handed and two-handed. Still the case, now you can do it mid-weapon combo. So one hand, and then you tap it, and without breaking the pattern, suddenly it's two-hand. Nice little touches like that do elevate it. There's quite a nice sense of weight to when you hit something, even with a slashing weapon.
Nice.
You do kind of feel the bones breaking, which makes me sound like a psychopath, but...
No, but those are the little touches. That
nice little catharsis, yeah.
Okay, great. So they're not reinventing the wheel. It's a greatest hits thing, which again is not something new, but they don't mess it up. They do stick the landing. It does feel good.
There were some issues with enemies getting stuck on world geometry.
Okay.
And the camera occasionally misbehaves. The other thing that I found tricky was all Souls-likes run a very thin line of challenge versus progress. What's a good level of difficulty?
Yes.
Lords of the Fallen, when it oversteps, goes into the too hard bracket,
Right.
I think. I'm sure there will be no shortage of incredibly skilled players who razz me just endlessly for that comment. But there were moments where it did get a bit bullshitty. There's an enemy that disguises itself as an item pickup and insta-kills you if you fall for it. And as far as I can tell, there's no way to break the illusion. So even if you're suspicious, you stab it with a sword or kick it or shine your lantern on it.
Even knowing that
it might be. If there is a way, I never worked it out, and I kept falling for the damn thing.
And you write guides for games.
If this gets revealed post-release, I'm going to scream. But that was one of those moments.
Bullshitty.
That's not a challenge.
That's not about skill.
Yeah, it just feels like you roll the dice,
right.
Oh, you lost. I don't know what advice to give in that regard, because either you go without all the great items that are hanging around, or you get occasionally just have your head bitten off by a giant moth thing. Since the recording of this review, I have been informed by those involved with the game's development that the predatory head-chomping moths that disguise themselves as items can, in fact, be identified by slightly erratic movement in the tail of the yellow flame that marks an item pickup. I've also been told that they can safely be destroyed by using the Soul Flay ability on any item pickup you find suspicious. It is therefore with the greatest humility that I retract my aforementioned statement about the bullshittery of this creature and its methods, though I still nonetheless maintain that this particular part of the Lords of the Fallen experience remains somewhat difficult to love.
How are the boss fights like?
They're fine, they're good. It's a mix. Your standard scary knights to a thing that looked like a giant head of a statue that kind of opens up and little tentacles come up and try and chomp you. They're fine. They work.
What about the because they actually have two distinct looks with your lantern. You can reveal things in the world.
So this is the game's gimmick. So there are two worlds in the game. Though reality, it's kind of the same world with variations. It's a bit like when you put on the ring in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So there's standard world, Axiom,
yeah,
which is sort of decrepit and broken down and sad. And then there's the spirit world, Umbral, which is decrepit and run down and sad, but also has skulls and is kind of purple.
Yeah, okay.
I'm snarking, but there is actually some really clever ideas here. So generally, it's way easier to get to Umbral than it is to get back to Axiom.
Oh, okay.
And Umbral is the nastier of the two realms.
Yeah.
You get more rewards for being there longer, but it gets nastier and nastier the more time you spend. Enemies spawn in infinitely, and they start off really minor, like the lowest level zombies, but then if you spend too long there, it starts upgrading and you get like proper spirits coming after you.
Just keep coming.
Yes, but you get higher rewards the longer you stay, and if you die at any point in the game in Axiom, you just teleport to Umbral rather than dying.
Okay.
And then, once you're there, you have to find one of the special shrines that will get you back to Axiom.
Right, okay.
So it is way easier to get to Umbral than back, but that's the point. It's the sort of extra layer of challenge, and there's moments where you have to make the transition. So if there's a gate that blocks your path in Axiom, you take a look at it in Umbral, and it's gone.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, you have to pass through it in those moments.
Yeah.
And there's a feature I quite like where if you hold up your lantern, you open a little window that you can just peer through into Umbral just to see what you'd be dealing with if you've made the transition there and then. But that comes with risks because some of the Umbral-specific monsters will try and reach through to pull you through.
Oh!
So you have to be careful about that.
I love it. The fact that even that is like, it's safe. It's like,
Yeah, but you basically open a little rift in space that works both ways.
That's so good.
If you're not certain about whether you want to make the jump or not, you go, is it safe? No, it's not. There's hands immediately. So that is a clever idea. It is the difference between an interesting mechanic and a fun one. I love talking about it, but when you're actually there, you're basically just pressing a button and it goes from orange to purple and there's some more enemies. And it's hardly the web swinging in Spider-Man, for example.
Yeah, it's not like changing gravity where all of a sudden the puzzle is upside down and you have to reorientate yourself. You're like, no, it's the same world. Purple filter. But
it is a clever idea.
Yes. So when you're talking about the two worlds, Axiom and Umbral, what's the story like? Is it as...
I have no idea.
So it is a Souls game?
No, well, I'm aware of what the story is. Basically, it does the whole intro cinematic where long time ago, evil god gets banished with the 5 beacons of banishing around the land that keep him outside with his nose pressed against the glass. But now he may be coming back, and he's
peeking through,
and he's sliding hordes of demons through the gap under the door. And if someone doesn't turn all the beacons on and off again, he'll come back proper. And
oh my god, you're resetting routers. You're turning them on and off again.
Well, you're uncorrupting them, but
right.
it is effectively the same. I found myself turning off to it pretty quickly.
Does it have the little lore things secreted in it that if you are a Souls fan that does like finding those little notes and stuff, does it have them?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you are interested in the story and stuff, there is an overarching one, and there is a hidden one, or there is much more that you can find. It's just, you were like, I'm not gripped that much by it.
Yeah, I'm not really here for the plot. I'm just here for bashing on Hellspawn, and which is fun. The game, for me, has become a podcast game. I turn off the higher part of my brain while I'm listening to something else, and it's occupying my hands and not my head.
Yeah.
And on that level, it is working.
It's fantastic.
It is fun to play.
Yeah. So it's not an Elden Ring.
No.
But again, like you said, capital F, fine. You can play 3-player co-op, cross-play, which is quite nice as well.
I mean, we're pre-launch at the moment, so I've had limited ability to do that. I have played with a few people.
Okay. So it's possible.
Yeah, it works. It's, if anything, easier to set up than Dark Souls and From Software and Elden Ring were.
Great. So
you just go to a checkpoint, and there's literally a matchmaking option that's, attack random player, help random player, ask for help, ask for someone to attack you. And it, fair enough. That's
what you needed.
That's kind of as complex as it needs to be, and there you go. Because we got a PC code. On that PC, it has been running not great. I did also try running it on a gaming laptop, and I may have sterilized myself in the process because the amount of radiation and heat coming off it. And I think it's the two worlds thing, because they're effectively both loaded at the same time.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
And the lantern means that they have to be...
They have to be available.
They have to both be existing parallel.
If you're playing this on Xbox Series S or a low-end PC...
I'm fascinated to see how consoles will handle it. It may get a patch 1 release. It may... I don't know.
PS5 might be fine with the SSDs, and the Xbox Series X might be fine with the solid-state
They may
drives.
very well be. I haven't tried those. I'd love to see them.
Okay, but...
on computer,
just
it
a
was
warning.
a
Not an insignificant computer or a cheap one.
No, could have cooked a chicken at 200 yards with the heat coming off that. Lords of the Fallen is fine. It doesn't reinvent the wheel perhaps as much as it's hoping to with the Axiom Umbral Spirit World divide, but these are clever ideas. The combat engine is pretty well made, even if it is occasionally a little bit ragged around the edges. The story, I found, can be safely ignored and doesn't prohibit you from having fun even if you do ignore it. Ultimately, it's fine, and that's as much as I think most of us were expecting.
Yeah, if you want to itch that Souls-like.
Yeah.
If you've put hundreds of hours into Elden Ring and it's getting a bit boring now, there are some new mechanics here to try out. With that all in mind, then what score have you given it?
I'm going to give Lords of the Fallen a 3.5 out of 5.